So Simple tutorial. Good morning students, welcome to SST So Simple tutorial. Today we will do one short revision of the last chapter of political science textbook, Outcome of Democracy. So let us straightway come to the topic. Why is democracy considered a better form of government when compared with dictatorship or any other alternative? This is so because it promotes equality among citizens. It enhances the dignity of the individual. It improves the quality of decision making. It provides a method to resolve conflicts. It allows room to correct mistakes. But are these expectations realized under democracies? See, there are more than 100 countries in the world today who claim and practice democratic politics. What are the features that are common to all these democracies? They have formal constitutions, they have political parties, they hold elections, they guarantee some rights to the citizen. Yet these democracies are so much different from each other. They are different from each other in terms of the social situations, their economic achievements, and their cultures. Therefore, the achievements of all these democracies will certainly be different. But since they are all democracies, we can expect at least something from every democracy. So the first and most basic one is that it produces a government that is accountable to its citizens and responsive to the needs and expectations of the citizens. So what is an accountable government? An accountable government is a government that is answerable to the people. The government that is required to justify its actions or decisions. In a democracy, people elect their representatives to form the government. And if they don't work according to the wishes of the people, people have the right to change them. There is another question on the efficiency and effectiveness of democratic government. In democracy, there are a lot of deliberations and negotiations. Long debates and discussions take place in the legislatures before decisions are taken. Sometimes committees are formed on important issues which take a very long time and cause the delay. So, some delay is bound to take place. In contrast, non-democratic rulers do not care about public opinion. There are no debates and discussions, so they are quick in decision making and implementation. But those decisions may not be accepted by the people. A democratic government takes more time to arrive at the decision. It follows procedures. So, the acceptability of such decisions by the people are more, and hence we can say they are more effective. In addition to this, democratic governments also ensures transparency in its working. Any citizen who wants to know whether a decision was taken through the correct procedure can find this out. The Right to Information Act passed by the Indian Parliament is one such example. This factor, transparency, is missing in non-democratic government. This is one important difference between democratic and non-democratic governments. So when we try to find out the outcomes of democracy, it is right to expect democracy to produce a government that is not only accountable to the people but also develops a mechanism for citizens to hold the government accountable. So, if we want to examine democracy on this expected outcome, we should see whether it holds regular, free and fair elections, whether it holds open public debates on major public issues, whether it gives citizens right to information about the government and its functionings. Dear students, democratic governments do conduct regular elections and set conditions for public debate, but they do not have a good record in sharing information with the citizen. Let us now try to know what is a responsive government. A responsive government is a government which responds positively to the needs and aspirations of the people. It is sensitive to the needs of the people. The government takes decisions, forms policies which are acceptable to the people. So we can reasonably expect a democratic government to be responsive and also that it is free from corruption. But again, the record of democracy is not very good in both these counts also. Let us now discuss a legitimate government. What is a legitimate government? Legitimate means something which is acceptable according to law, something that is allowed by law. In democracy, the rulers are chosen by the people through election. So it is a legitimate government. General Musharraf grabbed power in Pakistan through a coup. So his government was not a legitimate government. On the other hand, Nawaz Sharif won the election and formed the government. So his government was a legitimate government. That is why it is said that democratic governments may be slow, it may be less efficient, it may be less responsive, but it is people's own government. It is the government elected by the people, and that is the reason why there is a worldwide support for democracy. People wish to be ruled by representatives elected by them. Let us now revise the economic outcomes of democracy. As an economic outcome, we expect that democracy brings economic growth and development and reduces inequality and poverty. Students, if we expect democracies to produce good governments, it is natural that we also expect that it produces economic development. Look at this table. It shows the rates of economic growth for different countries between 1950 and 2000. Comparison is made between democratic and the dictatorial regime. Here what we see is that the growth rate of all democratic regimes is 3.95. The growth rate of the dictatorial regimes is 4.42. That means on an average, dictatorial regimes have had a better record for economic growth. But if you compare the record only in poor countries, there is virtually no difference. What we find here is that democracy has not been able to achieve higher economic development. This is indeed a cause of concern to all democracy-loving people. But can we reject democracy only on this ground? No. Why no? Because very often we demand something more than material means of subsistence. We want freedom, we want equality, we want a government that is legitimate, that is accountable, that is responsible. We want the right to change the ruler if they fail to live up to our expectations, and dictatorships do not meet any of these needs. So I think it is wiser to accept slow economic growth if high growth rate comes at the cost of other valuable benefits. Let us see how democracy has been successful in the reduction of inequality and poverty. Even if a country achieves economic growth, will wealth be distributed in such a way that all citizens of the country will have a share and lead a better life? Do democracies lead to a just distribution of goods and opportunities? These are some valid questions. See, if we are living in a democratic country, we can expect that there should be no economic disparity. Students, all of us live in a democratic country. We know that democracies are based on political equality. Political equality means people have the right to vote, they can even contest elections and occupy public offices. And we see that we actually enjoy this kind of equality. But we also observe that there is a growing economic inequality between people. A small number of ultra-rich enjoy a highly disproportionate share of wealth and income. Look at this table. It shows the inequality of income in selected countries. Here you can see that in democratic countries like South Africa and Brazil, the top 20% people take more than 60% of the national income, leaving less than 3% for the bottom 20% of the population. Not only that, their share in the total income of the country has been increasing. Rich are becoming richer and poor becoming poorer. The gap between the rich and poor is widening day by day. Those at the bottom of the society lead a very difficult life. Many of them live in slums. They find it difficult to meet their basic needs of life, such as food, clothing, house, education, and health. In India, a large population of our voters are poor. Therefore, no party will like to lose their votes. Yet, our elected governments do not appear to be as keen to address the question of poverty as we expect them to. This sounds a little strange and paradoxical. The situation is much worse in some countries like Bangladesh, where more than half of population lives in poverty. We are at least better than some other countries that we do not have to depend on rich countries for food supplies. So what is your assessment? 1. Democracies have failed to achieve economic development. And 2. Democracy has not been successful in reducing economic inequality and poverty. Let us now come to the social outcome. First, accommodation of social diversity. Today, it is difficult to find a society that is homogeneous. You will find diversity in every society. Therefore, social divisions of one kind or the other always exist everywhere. In such a situation, the question arises, do democracies lead to peaceful and harmonious life among citizens? In the first chapter, we have seen how democracies accommodate various social divisions. Power sharing, as we have read, is one such strategy to resolve disputes over exercise of power. It is a powerful approach to unite the diversities by making them a party to decision making. This reduces the possibility of these tensions becoming explosive and violent. We also saw how Belgium successfully negotiated differences among ethnic populations. Democracies usually develop a procedure to conduct their competition. In India, OBCs, STs, and SCs are given a fair share in power. This kind of power sharing is used to ensure adequate representation of each community. No society can fully and permanently resolve conflicts among different groups, but we can certainly learn to respect these differences and also evolve mechanisms to negotiate the differences. Ability to handle social differences, divisions, and conflicts is thus a plus point of democratic regime. Democracy accommodates social diversities when it is well understood that it is not just the rule of the majority and that the rule of majority is not just the rule of a single religious or social community. A majority always needs to work with a minority so that the government functions to represent the general view. Let us now assess democracy on whether it promotes dignity and freedom of the citizen. See, every individual wants to receive respect from fellow beings. Conflicts often arise among individuals because they feel that they are not treated with due respect. The passion for respect and freedom are the basis of democracy. This has been achieved in various degrees in various democracies. If we take the instance of gender equality, we see that the democratic system promotes women's movements for freedom and equality by providing more constitutional and legal help. But this does not mean that women are treated with respect and they enjoy complete freedom in reality. But once the principle of dignity and freedom of individuals is recognized in principle, it becomes easier for women to wage a struggle to achieve that. They can demand their government to take measures and implement the same. Thus, the democratic system ensures a legal basis for women's participation. The same thing is true of caste inequalities. Democracy in India has strengthened the claims of the disadvantaged and discriminated castes for equal status and equal opportunities. There are still instances of caste-based inequalities and atrocities, but they lack moral and legal backing. That is why democracy is much superior to other forms of government in promoting this outcome of dignity and freedom of citizens. While we can expect democracy to have the social outcome of accommodation of social diversity and dignity and freedom of citizen, it may not be able to establish these outcomes of its own. As said before, it only creates conditions for its citizens to work towards achieving them. People are always having expectations and complaints about the way democracy functions. This by itself is an indication that people have developed awareness and expect those in power to be accountable to the people. Most people today realize that their vote matters. It gives them a say in the running of the government and ensures that their interests are protected. Let me stop here, students. With this, we finish one short revision of all the topics of class 10. The playlist of all the chapters is given down in the description for your convenience. You can click to the link there and reach to the targeted video of revision straightway. MCQs of all the chapters in the form of T20 are also there for you. You will shortly get competency based MCQs also. Go through them and score well in the exams. Thank you and Jai Hind.